Good morning. I feel all revved up after that Beatles sing-along, so special thanks to Dan for his leadership. My name is Priscilla. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm so glad to be with you this morning. Our first reading this morning is a blessing. Kip and I got to experience this at a multi-faith clergy meeting we were at. It's written by Nadia Bolz-Weber, an American author, Lutheran minister, and public theologian, and a great person to follow. I invite you to sit back, close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and receive this prayer as we try to feel the sentiments in our body as we bless others, even as we are ourselves blessed. Blessed are the agnostics. Blessed are they who doubt, those who aren't sure, who can still be surprised. Blessed are they who are spiritually impoverished and therefore not so certain about everything that they no longer take in new information. Blessed are those who have nothing to offer. Blessed are the preschoolers who cut in line at communion. Blessed are the poor in spirit. You are of heaven, and Jesus blesses you. Blessed are they for whom death is not an abstraction. Blessed are they who have buried their loved ones, for whom tears could fill an ocean. Blessed are they who have loved enough to know what loss feels like. Blessed are the mothers of the miscarried. Blessed are they who don't have the luxury of taking things for granted anymore. Blessed are they who can't fall apart because they have to keep it together for everyone else. Blessed are those who still aren't over it yet. Blessed are those who mourn. You are of heaven, and Jesus blesses you. Blessed are those who no one else notices, the kids who sit alone at middle school lunch tables, the laundry guys at the hospital, the sex workers and the night shift street sweepers. Blessed are the forgotten. Blessed are the closeted. Blessed are the unemployed, the unimpressive, the underrepresented. Blessed are the teens who have to figure out ways to hide the new cuts on their arms. Blessed are the meek. You are of heaven, and Jesus blesses you. Blessed are the wrongly accused, the ones who never catch a break, the ones for whom life is hard, for Jesus chose to surround himself with people like them. Blessed are those without documentation. Blessed are the ones without lobbyists. Blessed are foster kids and special ed kids and every other kid who just wants to feel safe and loved. Blessed are those who make terrible business decisions for the sake of people. Blessed are the burned out social workers and the overworked teachers and the pro bono case takers. Blessed are the kids who step between the bullies and the weak. Blessed are they who hear that they are forgiven. Blessed everyone who has ever forgiven me when I didn't deserve it. Blessed are the merciful, for they totally get it. Thank you to Nadia Bolz-Weber for those blessings. The Bible reading from today's lectionary comes from Luke chapter 6, verses 17 to 26, and it continues with the theme of blessings and warnings. He, meaning Jesus, went down with them and stood on a level place. A large crowd of his disciples was there, and a great number of people from all over Judea, from Jerusalem and from the coastal region around Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. Those troubled by impure spirits were cured, and the people all tried to touch him because power was coming from him and healing them all. Looking at his disciples, he said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, because great is your reward in heaven. For that is how their ancestors treated the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have already received your comfort. Woe to you who are well fed now, for you will go hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when everyone speaks well of you, for that is how their ancestors treated the false prophets." Let me take a wild guess here. As a kid, you were rewarded for compliance. Am I right? Maybe your household was different from mine, or maybe you raised your kids differently than I raised my own. In our house, we had a mantra that came from the funny grammar that came out of our toddler daughters' mouths. We used to say, "Cooperate me." We expected and trained our kids to be good, meaning to do as they were told, do your homework, don't question your teachers, your parents, or your really mean handbell teacher at church. Sorry, Carly and Pelham, I should have intervened. I should have made waves. Instead, I modeled what it looks like to be conflict averse. But we all do it, don't we? We encourage our kids to obey a concept that is at the heart of the biblical message and even embedded in some of our wedding vows, except if we're smart enough to change them. You know the problematic messaging I'm talking about. Our sacred text has taught us to submit to authority in ways that will put us and others in harm's way. It's time we told the truth about how harmful certain biblical messages have been, or at least the messaging, the ways that we have interpreted and used, they've been used to keep us in line. But can you think of a time when you were affirmed for defiance, encouraged to speak up, to break the rules? Did you receive home training on how to be defiant? If not, we have some work to do together. The time for compliance is over. Welcome to the resistance. For those of you who've been at it for a long time, I'll hope you'll have us as we begin our training, our learning, and unlearning. Please tolerate our muddled practice exercises as we attempt trial and error. Ijeoma Oluo, who recently wrote a book called Be a Revolution, says, if you want to be involved in the revolution, there is space for you. What is this movement about? We work to provide victories for the people we love. This movement knows that love is unstoppable. To use the language from our Bible reading, who do we say are blessed? Who and what do we say woe and no to? Dr. Sunita Shah, a psychological researcher and author of a book called Defy, The Power of No in a World That Demands Yes, thinks that we've misunderstood what it means to defy. She claims we need a new definition of defiance, one that honors our agency and reframes it as a positive force so that we can stop conflating compliance with goodness. If you look at the old definition, to defy is to challenge the power of somebody else boldly and openly. But here's Dr. Shah's new definition. To defy is simply to act in accordance with your values when there is pressure to do otherwise. This positive reframe makes all the difference in getting clear about what is being asked of us, and it makes defiance more accessible to us all. How will we know that a situation calls for defiance? Sometimes it's obvious. Now, I'm not saying that the intervention is easy, but the need for the intervention is apparent. You may have heard that neo-Nazis dressed in black were emboldened to show up on an overpass in a neighborhood north of Cincinnati, waving swastika flags. A black community showed up, confronted them, and ran them off. That's admirable, but why is it that all too often marginalized communities have to be the ones to do this? Blessed are the intercessors. Woe to those who instill fear and spread hate. Sometimes the cues that it's time for defiance are more subtle. Usually you can trust your body to sound the alarm. The tension that you feel, the tightening in your chest, the butterflies in your stomach, when someone does or says something that is sexist, racist, trans, or homophobic, our body is telling us that a boundary has been crossed and that it's time to set our own boundaries so that people are clear about what we stand for and against. And listen, failures of courage are real. We've all been there. But the times that we're in require that we fight back, require us to be strategic, to band together. We all have different work to do in this fight for liberation, and we should all be in preparation and action mode. What are we going to do when the Nazis show up here? What about the ICE raids that are already occurring regularly in Philly? How will we respond to the legal personhood of trans people being threatened? Censorship and erasure are more blatant than ever. What scope of sex-based protections do you want under the law? We must realize that all of our rights are implicated. America has been living a lie. We keep acting like the America that we know and love is vanishing, but white supremacy has never not been the case. Equality has never been a reality, and usually it barely feels like an aspiration. Ijeoma Oluo talks about how when she first started her activist work, she spoke the language of reform, not because she didn't believe in or want abolition, but because she didn't think it was possible. And then she realized that she had fallen victim to one of white supremacy's greatest weapons, the war on imagination. But if we're already living the worst case scenario, it's time we dare imagine the possibility of a different future. This thing is too broken to mend. We must burn it down and begin anew. The time for defiance and discomfort and rule breaking and risk taking is now. The time for conformity and comfort and delusion is over. We're hitting rock bottom once again in this country. Our democracy is being dismantled. And what the inhumane ones should fear most is people banding together and organizing themselves. It's always been our only hope. That's why we're inviting you to a conversation about how to engage in the resistance that we're going to have on March 9th after worship. We see the smoke signals, and where there is smoke, there is fire. Democracy requires participation, and not just on voting day. We invite you to come explore how to enact our love. This theme of banding together in community brings me to Pulitzer Prize-winning Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show. Talk about acting in accordance with your values when there is pressure to do otherwise. There's so much to talk about here, and I will not try to cover it all. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. It was bold and coded at the same time. As I watched, I grasped some of the symbolism and was actively aware that other things were going over my head and that I'd have to do some research. Thank God for the internet. Thanks to Cindy Noir on Instagram for breaking down one extremely important message in the performance. Samuel L. Jackson played the role of Uncle Sam, a Black man who works against his own race in order to thrive in American society. During the performance, Uncle Sam says this one line to Kendrick Lamar. "Oh, you got your buddies with you? Cultural cheat code, scorekeeper, deduct one life." You see, they don't like us being in community. That's why it's the cultural cheat code. So what do they do when we get together in camaraderie and remind ourselves of who we are? They deduct one life. It's a devastatingly sad lyric that reflects the brutality that Black Americans are subjected to. And who better to play the role of Uncle Sam than Samuel L. Jackson, a Black elder who has been fighting for the same thing his whole life. He jumped into campus politics at Morehouse College in Atlanta, eventually joining a spring 1969 protest in which he and others held Morehouse trustees hostage. His defiance led him to being expelled for 2 years. Samuel L. Jackson, who was a member of the Black Panther Party and who served as an usher at the funeral of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Kendrick Lamar used his art to model defiance on a national stage, and too many of us missed it because trickster energy is hard to decode and not everything is for everybody. As I come to a close, you are reminded that people like Ijeoma Oluo, Nadia Bolts-Weber, Kendrick Lamar, and Samuel L. Jackson are inviting you to be a revolution. The revolution may or may not be televised. What does this revolution look like as it plays out in everyday life? Why? It simply looks like love. This is the good news of God. Amen.